Right, we are back with episode, I think, 6 of the Midnight Pod, and this is probably, in my opinion, one of the more exciting episodes so far. Just because I suppose we've probably spoken online for maybe like, that sounds proper weird, but just on like Instagram for maybe, I'm gonna say like 2 years.
I think it's about a year. I think it's
maybe a year, maybe less.
I think it was on like a podcast that I watched maybe like a year ago. So then I sent you a DM saying, "Oh yeah, you're a sick guy." Yeah,
something like that. And then I didn't know what you did initially because I don't think you had Morve in your... Is it Morve?
Morve.
Fucking hell, right, okay. In your bio, and then you did, etc., etc. But yeah, long story short, we've got Jordan Jones, founder of Morve.
Morve, that's it.
I thought it was Morve.
Do you know what? No one knows how to pronounce it. Like,
what does it actually mean?
Basically, it means the word bad in French. So...
Yeah, because I Google searched earlier, like define Morve.
Yeah, so apparently obviously in English, bad is like slang for, cool, like,
like
bad guy, sick guy. Apparently when it's a translation into French, it doesn't quite work in the same way. But for me, I'm just thinking, like, we're going to like redefine the word. Like, we're going to make Morve our own word. Same way you got Acne Studios.
Yeah.
Made Acne Studios a cool brand. We're doing the same for Morve.
Yeah, so it's Morve, not Morve. All right, cool. Yeah, so Jordan Jones, and yeah, I'm excited about this episode because I just, it's fucking weird when you speak to people online and never meet them. But I feel like there's a pretty niche set of like young, successful e-com founders in the UK, particularly. Like, I don't know, I don't know the facts, but I reckon there's like definitely like less than 20 people.
Definitely, yeah.
Probably, like maybe
like
50.
Secret hidden people.
Probably less, yeah, unless like super secret people, but... I just feel like people like you don't get enough airtime. I've been giving myself airtime the past few episodes, but yeah, that's why I wanted to do it. And I suppose just be good to, because I actually know like relatively fucking very little about your background, to be fair. I know a little bit about Muscle Monkey and shit, but
yeah, that's it.
The first, I guess, question is just like, tell us about your background and I guess maybe from school, etc., etc.
Yeah, so for me, I was always like massively into like business and selling as a young kid. Like, I think like when I was like 10 years old, like I was like flipping stuff and selling stuff on eBay and would buy books like How to Get Rich on eBay when I was like 10. The one thing for me is like that sticks out in like 2006, I was in primary school. I had no cash, was getting 20 quid a month from my parents, and the PS2 or PS3 was coming
PS2,
out.
I reckon, yeah.
And I was desperate to get this console. My parents said, like, we're not going to buy it for you. You're going to have to pay for it yourself. And I'm thinking, how the fuck can I buy this console? I'm getting 20 quid a month. It's going to take me about 4 years. I'm going to be about 16 by the time I can afford this.
There'll be a new PlayStation.
So I ended up like, at the time I was like buying these Doctor Who cards for like, I'd buy a whole box from the corner shop for like 30 quid. And then there'd be like certain super rare cards on every single box.
Yeah.
So then on eBay, because there was like collectors, I was to be able to sell them for like £15 for each super rare card. But I knew that in each box there'd be like, let's say like 10 super rares. So I'd be buying these boxes and then just selling the super rares on eBay. I made like a grand, like 10 years old.
Yeah.
So I managed to buy the PS3, buy all the like games around it, everything. So that was obviously my first bit into business, and then from there, obviously, I was the guy who was selling sweets and polos and stuff in school.
You were that guy.
I was that guy. But like, to be fair, I think I was always into e-com from like my mum. My mum always had like a marketing background, so she'd always be driving into me about internet. So from the early 2000s, when I was literally like a toddler, she was doing marketing, talking about internet. Yeah. So for me, that's what like really drove me. So I was learning HTML and PHP, CSS, coding when I was a young lad. So I had that background of kind of learning how to figure things out for myself as a young kid. So obviously when I hopped into like e-commerce, it was second nature for me just to be like, well, how do you fix stuff? Like how can I add this to the website? Whereas most people don't have that. But yeah, so anyway, on a bit of a tangent.
No, that's good. That's what we need. Content.
Yeah, so anyway, so after that, I was doing all that through school. Went when I was like maybe 14, 15, 16, was sidetracked a little bit with football. Was like massively into like football, as every kid is. Wanted to make that. So I kind of put business to the side. Was like trading all the time. And then I founded my first brand at, when I was 17. And I was doing that alongside like a football course and like a sports science BTEC, which was shit, but I had like so much spare time, and I always like had this itch in me to like do something that would progress me. So with me being so into fitness, gym and stuff, a gymwear brand was like the next thing for me to do, because obviously it tied in with the business, and I always wanted to do business and clothing and stuff like that. So I set obviously the gymwear brand up, and that was literally like that was in 2014, so it was like the most amateur thing going. Like we were literally printing on like Continental.
Maybe
it's like it's basically Gildan, but like better Gildan.
I like Gildan, yeah. Gildan's
like,
classic.
It's like elite Gildan. It's like really good quality.
Yeah, fuck.
So we were doing Continental t-shirts, printing on stuff like that, ordering literally like 10 a time.
Yeah.
No budget. If we ever bought a t-shirt to like sample to send to a factory, that would be like a shit ton of money that we would not be able to afford to lose again. So evolved with the gymwear brand for a few years. Long story short, there was an issue with the brand name, which is then...
What was the brand called?
Monster Monkey.
Yeah.
So there was an issue with the brand name, essentially. I won't go into the details, but it meant that I had to start a new brand. But at the time I was doing the gymwear brand, I was working with ASOS. At the time, ASOS was our biggest like revenue source.
Yeah.
So ASOS said to us, look, we'll continue to support you, but we need to like start a new brand up. So the buyer at ASOS like helped me develop Mauve. So we
really?
Yeah. Fuck. So I still do have a good relationship with the buyer at ASOS. I worked with for them years, and they kind of I came up with loads of brand names, and then they kind of said, yeah, we like Mauve. They helped put together the first range with me, and then so when we launched Mauve, the first collection went on ASOS straight away. So it was good for the brand exposure. He even got us to go on the big drop down on ASOS. It had like new brands and or top brands. We managed to get on there for the first like couple of months, which again was great for the brand exposure. And yeah, went from there. But went to Foot Asylum I think a few months after that. Then done really well. COVID hit. Then fucked any wholesale up, and then just done ecom.
Yeah, shit. I feel like that's like a 7-year journey in like 7 minutes.
Yeah, it's obviously 25 now, so I started when I was 17. So yeah, it's like 7.5, 8 years compounding of just like knowledge and learning. Mistakes.
And when did Muscle Monkey end? And was it literally Mauve straight away?
Yeah, so it ended in 2018. So the thing is, we just come off our best year of business. And when I say best year, like these numbers were small compared to like what would be acceptable now. Like I think our last year of the gymwear brand was like 250k. It was like small numbers. Yeah. So small because I did at the time like Facebook was a lot different to it is now. There was not cheaper. As many people. Cheap as fuck. I wish I knew what I knew now back then.
Yeah, everyone does.
Be a fucking trillionaire probably.
Yeah, legit. I spoke about this before.
Yeah,
so true.
I'm like fuck it. Obviously we're doing paid ads, but on a small scale. If only I knew how to utilize it back then, it would be like a different story. But yeah, so that kind of ended in 2018. Had our best year. Found out the news in like the Feb 2018. So I think the day after I found out the news, I actually bought a whiteboard, put it up in my room. I was like, right, I need just to write whatever comes to my mind.
What do you mean by the news?
Well, with the brand name that we had to change the brand name, or the brand name Muscle Monkey as it was called could not continue. So
why? And they said you won't go into it, but like who made that decision? So I think people are going to watch, and that's
Long story short,
they're going to say why.
Long story short, it was an issue from something that was in the news from another big company. And the backfall from that was that my brand was looked at as a brand that potentially could not work. So It was nothing to do with
But
trademark.
it could technically have continued.
It could have continued. It could have continued. It was no trademark issue. It was no legal issue. At the time, ASOS was my biggest revenue source.
Yeah.
So you got to think back to 3 years ago. Ecom and our online website was not our revenue source. So that's always the big issue with companies who focus on getting into retailers and don't focus on ecom. Is that if anything happens with the retailer, and for whatever reason you might still sell well, but the retailer makes the decision that they're not going to stock your brand anymore, when that's pulled away from you, your business could go under overnight.
Yeah, very true.
So I've seen it happen time and time again. It's like some of these brands are making millions every year from certain retailers.
Yeah, I can think of a few, but I'm not going to say one in particular.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden the retailer says, do you know what, we're going to change direction, we don't need you anymore. These brands literally go over overnight. You got to understand that also these brands are set up to operate at a certain revenue level.
Yeah.
So when you pull that revenue, staff, overheads, bigger warehouses, when you pull that away, like your business go under it in like 2 months because your fucking burn rate is so high. So obviously we're operating on a much lower scale, but we could not afford to lose the revenue that we were getting from ASOS. So physically, the only thing we could do was listen to them and start the new brand as they wanted. So yeah, that's how Movo started.
And you say like they helped you start it. That sounds like a pretty unique situation. Was that just because you like had a personal relationship with one of the people? Like they just felt sorry for you, or what?
No,
like, what's the dynamic?
The people I worked with was Anthony and Maria at ASOS, and they were always really supportive of me. But I also think they saw like the hard work, talent, and drive I had. So they like invested in me as a person. Yeah. So I think they could see that I would make something work when I had the opportunity. So they obviously had to get signed off by I think the director or someone at ASOS high up had to sign off and say, look, yeah, we could do this new brand. But I was in a unique position where there was employees within ASOS who were prepared to kind of stand by my side and fight my corner and say, look, let's start this new brand. But do you know what? There was a few casualties within ASOS at the time of brands who had maybe names that could have been seen in a certain way that could have got the ASOS in trouble down the line, that were kind of axed. Again, I won't go into it, but I might probably get myself in trouble.
Yeah, so you said like they said we should start this brand. Was it just like they wanted you to start a brand by yourself and they would instantly stock it? So it was like helping you, or was it literally like? Yeah,
it's obviously no equity, nothing, no help. So obviously the beauty of being at a position is with wholesale, you can do something called purchase order finance. So if you've got a purchase order from a large company like ASOS, you don't even need to fund it yourself. You can go to someone like Lloyds Bank, and they'll give you the money up front to
produce the product.
That's actually a lie. So you got a purchase order finance that gives you the money at the time the product goes into the warehouse. So most companies like ASOS, Zalando, JD Sports, they'll all be on like certain payment terms, like normally like 90 days.
Yeah.
So for small brands, 90 days fucking just kills your cash flow. Again, it can put you out of business because you physically can't afford to outlay, let's say 50k for stock and not have that for 90 days plus production time. So I set up purchase order finance with the last brand, which meant when I went into the warehouse, got the money up front from Lloyds, but then obviously that doesn't solve the problem of how do you go to a factory and then produce the goods when if you don't have the capital to do it. So that's when you then go to companies and ask for I think it's basically like production finance or something. So basically you can get the money up front so that the company will then pay the factory direct, and then you obviously pay a percentage. So I was in a position where I didn't have to pay for the stock. Well, obviously I got technically loaned the money to make this first collection. No equity at all from ASOS. They just helped me because they wanted to give me a kind of a help, get us onto the website. So for me, it was like a blessing in disguise. And not only that, it put me in a position where I was able to go down a different direction. So I felt that with gym wear, I was very pigeonholed into what we were doing. So especially with the brand name, it was very alpha male. Could only be a certain person who'd want to wear it.
Yeah.
Only certain products. So you've got to think the type of people that buy it is so niche, and probably there's a cap on what revenue you can make. Because it doesn't transfer into women's, where probably the majority of other competitors are making their revenue. So actually, had it continued and it wasn't an issue, I'd have probably gone out of business, because I don't think that we could have competed or grew the revenue where we needed to go.
So it's meant to happen, you think?
Absolutely.
At least it was
the stars aligned. So
yeah.
The beauty of the issue that happened was I could start the new brand and go and learn everything I learned from the first brand, and then put it into the second. So I knew that with Move, I needed a brand name that was like kind of universal. It could go across men's, women's, kids, accessories. There'd be no kind of issue with it. I wanted it to just sit on its own as a brand. Like when you go down like Bond Street, you see Gucci, you see Louis V, you see all these brands. It sits on its own, the brand name.
Yeah.
So when I made Move, I wanted it to just do the same thing. I didn't really want it to mean anything, have any like kind of weird connotations or mean a certain thing. Go down like, I didn't want it to like resonate with any kind of certain type of person. I just wanted it just to be a brand.
Yeah.
A bit like Zara.
Yeah, to be fair.
So I think this gave me, when you learn this and then you can start the new brand, it was just like hit the ground running really. And it was just like, as soon as we started, we knew kind of onto something.
And how long was Muscle Monkey then? 4 years? Pretty long.
4 years, yeah.
Yeah, because I was going to say, it's pretty similar to when I had a clothing brand in uni.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't. It was when I dropped out of uni that was initially a dropshipping store selling jeans. When I discovered Facebook ads, and then it became a brand called Dusk, and my mate came involved. But it was only for like 9 months in total. But the reason I had to stop that was because of the name. There was a trademark dispute.
Oh, really?
It was like different, but
so what
that
was
ultimately that was a decent business. Like I look back at it now and think, fuck, like, you know, coulda, woulda, shoulda. But
could you not just change the brand name, like just relabel?
I mean, yeah. So I started it, and then my mate came in. He's probably watching this, but he runs an agency now called Soar with us.
You know, I think he might have contacted
called
me.
Ollie.
Yeah.
So I've referred him loads of people. So
yeah,
we kind of He, at the time he was like more into like uni and stuff, and I was trying to hustle on this brand that didn't really work. But we ended up working together with his agency anyway. But that ended up ending, and it was kind of similar. But I sometimes think, fuck, if I'd stuck with something when I was 20 at the time. I mean, whatever, it wasn't meant to happen, but I don't think that was for me anyway, to be fair, clothing. But
no, it's hard. It's a hard industry. So hard. I don't think you see a lot of brands cropping up, and I don't think people quite understand what it takes to make it or to even be profitable. So the whole time, like Muscle Monkey was running, I wasn't even taking a fucking salary. So like I was literally living at my mum's house.
Were you
like,
full time?
Yeah, man. I was expensing stuff, but I was living.
But you didn't have a part-time job, right?
No, nothing at all. I was full-time on the brand. Was not kind of taking anything personally as income, but I was running this business. Still doing a lot of like big things. I've done like Body Power Expo, which was like cost like 40k to go to.
I remember actually seeing that brand when I don't know when exactly, but
man. So like Body Power was
decent size to my memory.
What, Body Power or
no, your brand?
Yeah. So
I remember knowing the brand.
That's the thing. Yes, obviously people knew it. Like it was, especially within the industry, the fitness industry. Like people knew it, especially after Body Power, because like invested a lot of money into the stand and stuff like that. All these big investments. I always had this thing of like, it'll come good. Just like don't take any money for yourself now. You're in a good position. You're living at home. Don't have any outgoings really, apart from like going out and stuff like that. Just like reinvest everything. For the first few years, man, it's hard. Like I said, I wish I went onto YouTube and typed in how to run Facebook ads a few years earlier.
Yeah, legit. Tell me all. Right, little wine break, as we always seem to do, about 15, 18, 19 minutes in. And I'm wearing a white shirt, so this red wine back on the pod is fairly risky. But yeah, don't we all wish we were on Facebook as in fucking 2014? But
Massively.
so just on that then, like the home situation.
Yeah.
I guess, where are you from? I don't know if you mentioned this, but where are you from, and where did that go in terms of you living at home with your mum? I think you mentioned.
Yeah.
Doing the first brand. When did you move out? I suppose kind of 2-part question. Just a bit on that side of things.
Well, I still live at home in a minute.
Oh really?
Yeah. So for me, I was just
Probably smart financially.
Yeah, building the brand. Well, I paid a mortgage off 2 months ago, so that helped her out. But for me, living at home was good because it just kept me focused. Had no distractions. Like obviously all my friends went to uni, I stayed at home. I just grinded. Like I literally had no distractions. I live in a small town called St Ives, just outside Cambridge.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So living there was like, if I lived in London, if I lived in Manchester, if I lived anywhere, I would be distracted with going out probably like 4 times a week.
I don't know about that, maybe.
Nah. But being at home gave me the focus. I've got good support around me in terms of my mum and dad. So just helped massively. Obviously now I'm actively looking for houses now, but I'm just finding the right place to move into. So obviously I'm wanting to buy a place. But for me, I wanted to make sure my parents are right first. Obviously the number one thing for me was to pay my mum's mortgage off before I moved out. So obviously done that now. So yeah, the next step is to...
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter. That's pretty sick.
Yeah, next step obviously is to move out.
I've not done that.
Yeah, so it's good, man. It was honestly... I
spent money on cars instead.
Yeah, the thing is for me that the number one thing was to do that for my mum. Because she's grafted all her life. She has been a massive inspiration to me through my whole business. So to be able to do that for her was massive.
Yeah, so your parents still together?
Yeah, they're together, yeah.
So it was like good family life, do you think?
Yeah, it's good. It's not too bad. I mean, like...
I'm not trying to make a sob story, I'm just interested.
No, it's good family. It's good, but like, my mum's always the one who... Like, my mum owns a house.
Yeah.
So mum's always the one who, for many years, like, supported the family and stuff like that. So I've seen the hustle she went through. Sometimes had opportunities that she could have probably have gone further. I always think that my mum had the opportunity to do something amazing, but obviously life got in the way, and she never got to the place she could have done. So obviously she was stuck in that. She still lives in the same house that she bought when she was 28, and she should have maybe moved 2 or 3 times and upsized, but because of certain things in life, she never got there. So that's why me as a person, like, one of the reasons why I want to do well, wanted to like start business, is I wanted to make sure that I could at least do something for my mum. Do you know what I mean? And also, like, she worked so hard. Like, growing up, she would be the person who works 24/7. She'd be up at night working, then she'd be doing all the house chores, then she'd be cooking dinner. Like, I've seen someone work so hard in her life, and that is definitely rubbed off on me. Like, that's why now within business, like, I work hard because I've had a role model who's just done that as well throughout my life as a person growing up through.
Is she an entrepreneur?
She's not an entrepreneur, but she's a marketer. She's a very clever marketer.
Yeah.
She had a business when she was younger. It went bust. She got screwed over. My dad had a business as well. Went bankrupt. My granddad had a massive business in the 80s or 90s. It was like, I think, 10 mil rev. So obviously nowadays that probably was more close to like 30 million in today's money.
Inflation.
So my granddad had a massive business, but he still works. He's 82. He's in the US now. He still works because, like, during the 2008 financial crisis, he basically lost his house. Had a massive house in the US, but yeah. But so I think entrepreneurship, as well as creativity, is in my DNA. So on my mum's side, most of my family are like artists or artistic in one way. So like, obviously mum's a marketer, but when she was younger, she was like a drawer. She done like painting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
My grandma was an amazing painter. We have paintings all around our house that she's done. My cousin, who I'm quite close to, works for Trapstar. He actually does. He's a menswear designer. So he does basically does my job, but
When are you going to hire him?
well, so do you know what? I think business and pleasure can't go together. So I think
Business and family, yeah.
I think it's not one to
probably
cross.
agree with that.
But it's yeah, man. The funny thing is that when I was a kid, I always looked up to him as a cousin, and he was always doing like graphic design and he's always the cool cousin, right? And
Yeah.
it's funny how we've both ended up in the same industry, and like when we were younger, that was never like feasible that we would end up doing that. And then my other auntie, she's a painter now, does it in her spare time. And then my other auntie, who's the mum of my cousin who works at Trapstar, went to fashion uni or fashion college when she was when she was younger. Yeah. So it's like it's definitely written in the stars. It's DNA. It's like I feel like I've got my granddad's business acumen, and then also my parents' acumen, that they've tried to do something that obviously it's not worked out for them for one way or another, but obviously they had the business there, but it just didn't happen. Then I've got the creative side from my mum's side of the family.
So did you ever think about going to uni? What was the crap with that?
Never ever thought about getting to uni. So because I started the business at 17, it was just
true.
It was never in my psyche. Like I look at some of my friends and I think, do you know what? I've missed out on the uni experience. Like I would love to have gone there and met people, but then again, like I've gone through the sacrifice, and then my friends aren't in the position that I'm in now. So it's one of them things where it's got to balance up what's important to you.
Yeah, uni is a weird one. I could like debate it because I technically went and dropped out literally twice.
Yeah.
Because I went and then left and then decided to go back and then left again.
You got a fat student loan?
Yeah, not really sure about that actually. Fuck. I haven't paid it back. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's a fucking scam, so maybe I should charge you back.
It's an extra tax, right?
Yeah, I mean, my opinion on uni is a weird one. I don't know what else, because I guess you have to remember, like, whatever you want to call it, 99% of people aren't going to start a business.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've discussed this with people before. It's like, you know, you've got to give something that most people can follow. And I think it's a good... My conclusion of it is, I think it's great socially, teaches you how to live alone, whatever. You can fucking, to put it bluntly, you can shag girls and drink too much and probably be depressed 90% of the time because you're hungover all the time. I think it's a bad environment for that.
Absolutely.
But education-wise, I think for a good 90% of degrees, it's laughable.
Yeah,
I think if you're doing something like engineering, and fucking shoot me in the comments, whatever, but it's just, I think it's facts. Like, I think business degrees, and I'll say this myself, because ironically, I actually did entrepreneurial business management. It was the course title for 6 weeks before I left. I thought, what the fuck is this? And in hindsight now, you know, none of the lecturers had ever run a business or even started a business, and it just...
That's what annoys me about business advisors at places like Barclays and Lloyd's, who have never had a business. How can someone advise you on business when they've never done it themselves? So I also think, like, how can teachers or people at uni who are teaching you, how can they advise you on how to do well in life when they're on, let's be honest, like a low salary, and like they've not done it themselves? Like they're not inspiring. Like, it's just not the way. It's just a bit backwards. I feel like people get stuck in the rat run. It's like you've been told to go to uni, then you come out, get a job, then you get a low paid job, and then you get to a place in your job where you get to the threshold to start paying off your uni loan, but you're still in a shit paid job. Yeah,
I mean, geez, this could be a whole fucking episode, but at the end of the day, like, it's the system, isn't it? Like, obviously, there's a system which keeps people trapped, in my opinion. Like, I'm not a fucking conspiracy theorist, but and we spoke about it a bit on the last episode, which hadn't come out when we're recording this, but it would have done when you watch this. And yeah, I mean, Christ, but I can see why there needs to be some structure for in place for the majority to follow. Like, I'm not suggesting I've got a better idea. I'm just saying, you know, fucking moaning on camera, saying I just don't think uni is like as relevant as it was. I don't think, particularly for shit like business, like you say, you know, if you want to be an engineer, like my twin brother, non-identical twin, he'll probably never be on this, is very unlike me. Like, he's not entrepreneurial ultimately. Like, if you're watching this, don't take it personally, and he did engineering, and I see the value in that. Yeah. And maybe like being a doctor or a lawyer or whatever, like, I don't know what the word is, like more vocational skills where like, you know, you have to do that to be able to do it. But shit, like I think business is a joke. But at the same time, I don't know what, I don't have a better suggestion, to be fair. I think it'd be interesting what happens over like the next 10 years, like education.
I'm not sure. I think the problem is it's set up so like most people won't get to what we're doing. Like I don't think the economy is set up for like people like me. And if everyone was like me and you, the economy wouldn't work.
Well, yeah,
because who the fuck is going to get employed? Like if everyone's trying to start a business and be this person who's going to make the next unicorn company or something, like who's there to do the labor work? Who's there to sit in an office and reply to emails? It's just not there. So that's why like the government has set out this thing for people just to go into this system where it makes society work. It doesn't make like you rich. It just makes things like turn in a fucking wheel.
Yeah, geez, it's actually mad the tangent I could go on here, but yeah, because like basically everything other than the requirement to fucking eat and breathe is like made up.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like over time society has become this thing, and it makes sense. Again, I don't have a much better suggestion, but I think if you're not like I like jokingly tongue-in-cheek call them civilians, and I don't mean that offensively, like I'm just saying like people that aren't entrepreneurs, which is fucking fine. I'm not saying it's better or worse, it's just different. Yeah, but people that aren't entrepreneurs, it's like, yeah, you're right, like, if you're not going to start a business, you obviously need a job. So if everyone had a business,
no one's there to be fucking employed, right? Yeah,
like I think it's a 99-1 split on average. Like if you want to percentage it,
that's it. But do you know what? I think most people just aren't cut out for it either. Like I speak to some people, like friends, people who aren't friends, acquaintances. They just physically could not go through the stress, the hard work, the long hours that we go through. Like they can't. Like they might think they can, but they can't. Like if they actually lived the life of an entrepreneur. Sometimes when you're obviously first starting out, you don't know when you're going to get your next paycheck, or you don't know when you're going to be in a certain position where you can start earning good money. Most people don't want that. They want security.
Yeah, I think to be fair, I'm cutting you off too much here, but I'm fucking passionate about it. Like me and Tyler spoke about this, I think on the previous 2 episodes ago or whatever, but I honestly believe like if you're getting into entrepreneurship for money, then you're not an entrepreneur. Course, like obviously like I'll be the first to say like the shit that motivated me when I was younger was I wanted an Audi R8, like fucking stupid shit, and then you get it and realise it doesn't mean anything.
After a month you've had it, you're like, what's the next thing?
But yeah, like people that for example, I don't know, like e-com's massive, like e-com and crypto, like, you know, I'm going to start a business, but like if you're not thinking about it all the time, just naturally, then it probably isn't for you.
That's it.
And it's just
I think that like it has to be an absolute obsession. It has to be a lifestyle. Like it can't just be a job. Like for me, like I'm consumed by e-commerce, business, my brand. Yeah. Like it's just all I think about, and like that's when I realise that I'm different to everyone else. Because when I go out with some of my friends who have normal jobs, it's not in their like psyche,
different conversation.
Yeah, to just be talking about all the time. Like I could talk about my business, about e-com, 24/7. Everyone else aren't like that. So that's when you realise that we are a certain type of person that actually the majority of the society aren't like.
Yeah, so true. I think, I knew that in school that I wanted to do something different, but I didn't know what it was at the time. Yeah. And then fucking whatever, you figure it out gradually. I'm still figuring it out, but yeah, like, and then in uni, I remember feeling, I was like so depressed at uni because I had like a good time and shit, but I just remember feeling so, I'm not joking here, and this sounds fucking like weird like incel shit, and I wasn't a complete virgin at uni, but I remember being out on like nights out and fucking checking my Shopify.
Bro, I still do that now. I do that now. I check my Shopify every minute.
I deleted the app like 3 years ago because it's unhealthy as fuck, but maybe that's just me. I'm bipolar as fuck, but
I got to a point where I wasn't even checking Shopify. I was checking Google Analytics.
Yeah, real time
looking at contact information.
That's bad.
Payment information. Thank you. And I still do that now. Mate, and now we're doing well. Like, how long can you fucking look at this fucking dashboard? And it takes away from actually the work sometimes, because you get to a point where you start to look at all these things.
I know exactly what you mean.
And then you're looking at a screen, you're thinking you're working, but actually, how productive are you being?
It's just obsession. It
is. It is an obsession. It's a drug. It's just like the way social media is. It draws you in, makes you look at everything, makes you scroll through. Shopify and earning money is 10 times worse. It's like a massive drug addiction.
Yeah, I definitely I deleted the app like 3 years ago, but I completely like I have just vivid memories of doing that in like a nightclub, and if it was bad, your day's ruined.
That's it. It ruins your evening, right?
He's laughing, but it's fucking true. like it's so funny you say that, because every person, there's not many of them, but like every good mate I have now that's in the e-commerce space or whatever does the exact same shit, or has done the exact same shit. And people watching this, I think, will relate to that, like inhumanely. Like, is that a fucking right term? But like, I actually had a call with another guy that's a bit like us, a guy called Max. He's probably watching this. I'd never met him. Just like someone, I thought he was Chinese for a start, because he had a fucking no profile picture, and he had just I think Japanese, whatever, like some fucking Chinese word in his bio. So I was like, cool, I'll get on a call with you. He wasn't Chinese, not that it would have been a problem, but and he said the same thing. He said, I don't know what the conversation was, but it came up like, do you still get that stress of like checking stuff and if it's going bad or good? And I said, I probably get it less now. I mean, certainly the past few months I've been less actively involved, but I'm sure I get it again when I launch the new brand like next week. But it's fucked.
It's so bad.
It just consumes you.
It does consume you, and it does like ruin your mood. And it's even like certain times, like if I looked at this time last year and saw what revenue we're doing versus now, I would be ecstatic if I was doing what I did by 9 a.m. If I'd done that in a whole day last year, I'd be fucking buzzing. But now, if I hit a certain revenue in the morning and it's not what I want it to be, it just puts me on a shit mood for the whole day. And it's like, why am I getting myself into this trap? It's like, even sometimes during the evening, we make up the revenue, like, and it's fine. So at the end of the day, we're hitting
evenings typically, in my experience, are always better.
Well, especially with our US customer base, we do get a big surge like between like 1 in the morning and like 4 in the morning. So that is for me, when I wake up, I do gauge where we're at.
Yeah.
But obviously then again, they come online again during the evening. But mate, it just fucks your fucking mood up bad. Like sometimes if I've done bad one morning and it's not where I want it to be, it's like the worst thing. I jump in my car, I'm thinking, fuck this.
Yeah, I mean, it's never going to always be up, is it? That's the thing. As long as it's like up on a monthly, quarterly, yearly trend, whatever. But especially when you're getting started and it's a new business, like you obviously can't have a fucking yearly trend.
Yeah, of course.
You've never had a year.
Yeah,
or like, but yeah, it's mad. I just want to take it back then to a previous point I was going to mention. So you said still living at home, etc.
Yeah.
And in many ways, I think that's fucking smart. But the flip side of that, I want to get your opinion on this. It's like, I guess I went to uni, moved out, whatever. But then I would travel like full time between like 2018 and 2020, pretty much, or 17 and 19 even. And then like went home in between, etc. So like lived at home while I was doing all right, etc. But and then ended up moving to London like 2.5 years ago. But do you think that's like, it's like net? Obviously, like basically what you're saying is there's way less distractions living at home, and I see that.
Yeah.
But do you think it's like net beneficial with like, because potentially, let's just say hypothetically, you move to fucking near where I live or whatever.
Yeah.
You're going into Mayfair every week.
Yeah.
I don't even go out much, but like you're just exposed to, you know, fucking £9 million apartment next door.
Yeah.
There's Rolls Royces everywhere, which makes them sound like a fucking materialistic cunt. But the point is, like, you see that exposure to like wealth, and there's probably more chances to meet more like-minded people. Not in every case, but genuinely, like, so that's a long-winded question. But do you think
it's a weird one?
You've not missed out on that benefit potentially.
I've massively missed out on that benefit. I think I slightly touched this when I spoke to you on Instagram before. I was like, the one thing about me is like, I don't like fake shit. So although like I'm massively motivated by all this amazing stuff, like these big fucking houses, the cars and stuff, what I don't like is like, I don't mind networking, but I can't be a fake person. So I can't be that guy who's going to go to that party just because so-and-so's there, or I'm not going to go and meet someone just because that could get me to a certain place. I've got a fucking great set of friends that support me more than anyone else would. So like, I know for a fact that my set of friends that I've got in my town just won't snake me. They support me. Like back when I was doing my gym brand, they'd work on my stand at Body Power all weekend for free. They still now would, if I needed some help, they'd be there in a flash. Especially obviously Gord off camera. Crazy, like
legend.
The support is mad. Like you don't see that often, and that's why I've been in a lucky position where I've got good people around me. Obviously, I've missed out on the networking with people who are probably in a similar position or in a bigger position than me. But I think that at the end of the day, I'm focused on myself. I know what my end goal is. I know what I want to sell the brand for. I know what revenue I want to get to. Does not really matter about external things because I'm selling direct to consumer. I'm selling online. Like, does it matter if I know someone who's fucking got a business doing 10 million a year or 50 million a year, 100 million a year? It doesn't really matter because I'm in my own lane. I'm going to build the best fucking brand in the world. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It is an interesting debate. I think it comes down to like the sort of person you are. Because for me, I definitely see the part about friends. But to be fair, I think even that's probably fairly rare. So maybe that's like fortunate. But for me, it was more like I just hated feeling like I was lonely in the process, to be honest. Maybe that's just me being a little bitch, but that's just the truth.
Well, maybe so. But the thing is for me, like, I personally, when I get to the point where I've done well and I've got some fucking book out, I will talk about the fact that I spent 6 years in my bedroom on my own, speaking to no one Monday to Friday. My parents were at work. I was lonely as fuck. But that's the kind of shit that makes you want to be successful. When you're so low and you've got nothing, the only thing that's gonna get you to a certain place is just believing that you're gonna get there and like just working hard. So I still believe in that. I still think that me being in the same town I was in, still grinding hard, not having all these distractions, works to my favour. I think on the flip side, we're saying about all the networking, like being around people who are doing really well, that also can go against you because you're going to be around people who are potentially got other agendas, trying to snake you out, trying to understand things about you that are going to get them in certain places, potentially are going to do certain things to you. I just don't think that it's the be all and end all, personally. Like, it's great to know these people, but
that's what
does it really matter? Unless you want to, obviously I want to sell the business at some point, but I think the only thing that's a positive about networking is when you want to finally get acquired. What other benefit is there? Obviously you got the thing about being motivated by the people in the same position as you. Like, for me personally, just seeing the stuff that you do, stuff that Fred does, motivates me to want to do better. It'd be obviously great to link up more.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. I guess most my friends that are called close friends are now.
Yeah.
Like, I say I moved to London and got a place 2.5 years ago with Fred and another guy called Seb when we were in very similar positions that definitely hadn't fucking made it or anything, still haven't. He has definitely more than me at this point, but
big up Fred.
Yeah, fuck. So yeah, I see what you mean in terms of like new people though. Like, for example, if I met someone now, like, you did definitely experience that. Like, well, probably less so for me now because I'm not driving a flash car at the minute. But
soon come, bro. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's an interesting viewpoint actually. It's kind of deep.
It is, mate. I just think that, like, for me personally, like everyone will tell you, is like I keep my circle so small. Like, I don't let anyone in. If someone's got a friend, you wouldn't even come on
this podcast. He was reluctant.
Yeah, a bit reluctant. Didn't really want to talk about stuff, but
I'm going to use him.
Huh?
No, I'm joking.
But no, do you know what? I've known you for ages. We've been friends anyway. We've chatted, got to know you. So I feel like we're friends anyway, even though we're e-friends.
Yeah.
But I just think you got to be careful, man. There's a lot of people out there, especially in business, when they understand the kind of numbers you're doing, all they want is how can they make money off you, and you just got to be careful who you surround yourself with. Make sure people aren't putting you down a certain path just because they see a benefit for themselves. I just think people got to be careful and be clever.
Yeah, fuck. Okay, so just on that then, and I know we spoke about it very briefly off camera previously.
Yeah.
So like, there's a bunch of shit I want to come back to, but I have to speak about this now because it's relevant. So the whole, like, you've mentioned a few times, I've seen it myself, I've done it myself in the past as well, like, you like share numbers and like, you know, screenshots or whatever of your brand, you know, say X amount in one day, which is great and definitely turns heads. Like, I've had debates with people and like, there's just a general debate, you know, like certain people with even bigger brands do that and others don't, etc. Some people say like you shouldn't share the numbers because what you're saying is people will use you or potential to like try and rip you off, but then if you're saying that, why do you playing devil's advocate, why do you share the numbers? But then obviously, I see like pros and cons to both sides. So like,
I think,
what's your view on that?
Well, like obviously the normal civilian sees social media as a way to like post about themselves, post about their lifestyle. They're trying to get a few double likes or whatever they're trying to do. I don't know what it is now, but like
OnlyFans.
Exactly, trying to get an OnlyFans subscription. But when it comes to business and making money, social media is a vehicle to increase your profile, increase your business, increase your brand, and make more money. So like, I'm quite guarded in the sense I don't post too much stuff about the ins and outs of the business day to day. But obviously, I've been guilty of posting screenshots of revenue numbers.
Well, yeah, I don't think it's guilty. It's just you've done it.
But me personally, it's a way to get people talking about the brand. I think when you see obviously in your story, you post a revenue, and then you've got 1,500 people looking at your story. That's getting shared. They're talking about that. They're getting shared around people. They're talking about getting put in people's group chats. Move is doing this amount. That is a positive brand marketing.
I know it's been in my group chats.
Yeah, well, good. That's good because it's
not
works,
from me,
right?
but from others.
So I don't care who's sharing it. I want people to talk about the brand. So I post stuff because I want people to talk about Move, and ultimately it's gonna make the brand bigger, and it's gonna make more people buy stuff. And it might not make you buy stuff because you're in e-com or you're in the industry, but for the normal person who likes the brand anyway, when they're seeing the brand pop in.
Well, I'm actually wearing Move now, by the way.
Exactly.
Just to fucking shout out, which was.
Repping.
I think I bought that. I think I knew it was your brand, but I still bought it full price.
Love that. Appreciate the support.
Shout out.
It's like when people are seeing the brand pop in and they think it's going to sell out and stuff, it's going to push them to buy. It's going to make the brand bigger. I always say there's a few brands I've seen that have got massive media attention where actually maybe they got that media attention when they weren't as big as, or didn't have the revenue that we have right now. But they
talking
had
about Gymshark.
Yeah, Gymshark. You know, they're at 5 million revenue. They get a national papers talk about them.
I do remember that.
We're bigger than that now. We're getting no media attention. But I'd say the biggest thing about Gymshark and why they've got their unicorn status and got to the point where they've sold part of their business and been valued at £1 billion is that repetitive PR stunt they've put out about Ben Francis being younger. He's built this massive brand. Well, if another brand done the same thing and tried to build their like PR campaigns and got into the papers and got people to talk about them, they could get acquired for more.
I do agree.
You could be an underground brand at 30 million revenue. If no one fucking knows about you, you're not going to get acquired. You're not going to inflate your acquisition price. So I'd say look at In The Style.
Yeah.
They IPO'd for over 100 mil when they were making a loss every year. Why did they IPO for over 100? Because they got good PR. Do you know what I mean? That's
they had that Channel 4 documentary. It was
Channel 4 documentary.
Yeah.
The guy who owns
behind
it,
the fashion or something.
Yeah. So obviously they had a great documentary. The guy behind it is always in the papers talking about his big story. I follow him as well. He's bought my stuff as well. If he tries to copy it from Enzo brand, I'm gonna notice that. Don't worry. So obviously he is in the papers because of his success, even though he makes a loss every year. Right, his revenue is good, but he makes a loss. Then he IPOs for over 100 million. But let's say another brand is at 30 million revenue and makes a good profit, but no one knows about them. They're never going to be able to IPO for over 100 million because no one knows about them. Yeah, so it's about true. You have to get media attention. You have to get PR. Otherwise, you're not going to. If that's what you want, anyway. If you want to get acquired, if you want an IPO, you have to get the media to talk about you, or get people to at least talk about you.
Yeah, fuck. I mean, there's so many things I want to talk about now, but just on the acquisition point, because I feel like that's like, you know, it's like fucking stereotypically at least, and in my opinion, it's like winning the Champions League as an entrepreneur. Like if you get a big acquisition, you know, go buy a fucking yacht and whatever, and do the next thing, fucking printing money for your life. Like what's the goal there? Like when do you think that's going to happen? And I guess the second part of the question is, you know, like, do you think, is it just about the money then? Is it, some people say, well, if you just aim to get acquired, it's about the money, blah, blah, blah. Like, do you actually like what you do? Then what do you do afterwards? It's fucking like 7-part question, but.
Of course, it is a hard one. It's one that runs around my head myself. Like, I'm trying to think actually, what is it that drives me? But I am passionate about fashion and being in the process of building a business and a brand. And like, when you've got people who are buying your stuff and then posting on Instagram and saying how much they love the stuff, like, there's no better feeling. So I love the process of building that brand and seeing people enjoy it themselves. But obviously I want to get acquired. I want to make my family, I want to get in a position where my family down the generations are going to be sound and safe because I've done something great. Like, I want to be remembered in the future because I've built some amazing business that's been acquired, and people know about it. Like, that's what drives me. It's not just about the acquisition, it's about building something massive. It's about building something,
a legacy in it.
Legacy. Like, for me, I say this to loads of people, like, for me, legacy is like the most important thing. Like, I don't give a fuck really about, obviously I give a fuck about
Don's getting grey hairs saying this.
Yeah, like, I care about the numbers. Obviously I want to be like secure, but the thing that motivates me the most is I want to die and people to remember me for doing something out extraordinary, like out the ordinary. Do you know what I mean? So for me, that's my biggest motivation. And getting acquired is one of those things that's going to get you remembered.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Is there a number that you're going for? I mean, there probably is. It probably changed.
There's a number that I want to go. There's a number that I want to go for that's probably absurd, that may or may not happen. But obviously, I want to go for the 100 mil. Obviously, you have to. You got to aim for that.
Yeah, I agree.
Everyone in ecom aims for 100 mil. If I get 50 mil, I'll take it. But I think anything under that, I think I'll be doing myself a disjustice. I think my brand's too good to not take more than 50 mil. 100%. Do you know what I mean? 100%. Like, if you think what we're doing now, if you think of other brands,
have you got a timeline on that?
I think I could do it in 3 years. Where we're at now, I think you got to think that although Move's just turned 3 years old, I've been in the industry for 8 years. I've been grinding since I was 17. Like, I've been through a lot. Like, I've only started taking a salary from the last 18 months. Like, I grinded hard. Do you know what I mean? So, although I'm just starting the journey of Move, I feel like as a person, I've been through fucking a long, long journey myself. Yeah, and I feel like the acquisition is, especially where we're at as a business now, it's not there yet, but it's not too far away. In terms of, it's not fucking 10 years away, it's a few years away.
Yeah. Let's say tomorrow you get 100 million quid, or not tomorrow, but, you know, hypothetically in a few years, whatever. What'd you do then? You're only fucking still in your late 20s at that point.
Mid-20s, mate. Oh, if I've done it right now,
point,
25.
What, 3 years, whatever, you know.
Right,
let's just say
20s.
You do it at 28, 29, whatever.
So I think that the thing is, I would obviously invest in certain assets that would generate me an income, number one. Secondly, it's what I've got to debate with myself. Would I go back in the trenches? I don't know. If I've got all that money, would I want to go back in?
Nice problem to have, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I just don't know. Like, I feel like I've got a love for e-commerce, fashion and business. But if I had that much amount of money sitting in my bank, would I want to get back in the trenches? Because I know how hard it is. But at the same time, I feel like anyone who's at our stage of e-com has almost like a blueprint of, like, we could probably start a product and just blow it up fairly fast, I'd say. Because we know marketing, we know everything around production and stuff. So I feel like I could start a new brand and probably scale it quite fast. But would I want to go through that process of doing that? Because obviously profits year 1, 2, even if we're doing 7 figures rev, might be fairly low. Like, if you're doing 100 mil...
Well, I don't think you care at that point. You got 100 mil.
Yeah, so I know that. But then it's just a hobby, isn't it? It's just... It depends whether you want to have a brand that's a hobby, or do you just want to live your life and be a fucking baller?
Well, I think to be fair, that comes back to the, like, being self-aware in it, because I mean, unfortunately, I've not made 100 mil yet, but, like,
me neither, mate.
If I think I said this in the Tyler podcast as well. Like, I do genuinely think having got to know myself over the past 7 years of whatever I've been doing this fucking ecom thing now, particularly in the past year with all that shit that happened, like if I made 100 mil, I honestly reckon I'd still want to start the next thing.
Yeah,
I actually do. I just can't envision myself. I'd do it, but I'd have fucking Rolls Royce Cullinan, LaFerrari,
that's it.
4 slaves, 8 Richard Milles, and a fucking custom pink dial Patek. And I'd have like
100%. I think
fucking Elon Musk working for me or some shit. But
people like
I'd
me
still
and
do
you
it.
and the other people that are like doing what we're doing, it's just like, it's just in our DNA just to want to start brands, want to have the next thing. It's like what we spoke about off camera. Like, we're the type of people where like it's about the buzz. It's not just about the money, it's about the buzz you get when you get the sale, when you're doing your first 6-figure month, when you get a 7-figure year. Like, getting these numbers, it's like, it is a drug, isn't it, right?
Yeah.
It makes you feel a certain way. It's like no money can make you feel a certain way as getting all these like Shopify notifications, or if you don't have, if you turn it off.
It's not even just money, to be fair. Like, I mean, maybe you disagree, but like, it's just, I think there's something amazing about the fact you can just go from an idea or a thought in your mind, to just creating like a thing, and an ecom brand and business is like, for me and you and loads of others, is the most relevant vehicle to do that. But it's just like, even like this new brand I'm starting, like I'll show you after maybe, but I was packing the fucking first 100 because I had to get around some lead time with the stock. I was like, fuck this, I'm literally gonna pack it myself. Like, I don't care. Like, I've done millions in revenue in the past, all that, but it's just, I still get a little buzz from that.
8 figures plus in revenue.
Yeah, and then fucked up massively in the last year. But I still get that fucking, like, I felt like a 16-year-old again, like packing that shit. I still get that buzz.
Absolutely. And that's the thing that, like,
that's what it is.
That's one of those things I don't think that most people can go through. Like, when I take it back to when I was starting my first brand, I remember a point where we got an end terrace house and a van turns up outside the house and 90 boxes gets unloaded into our lounge that's small.
Yeah.
It takes up the whole lounge. The driver asks do we have a fucking, what's it called, a tail lift or whatever it is. Yeah. And wait, we're in a residential street. Do you think we're gonna have one of these? Yeah. Do you think we're gonna have one of these to pick up a pallet? No. But like that, going through that and the buzz of getting all these boxes into your house and then unpacking it is like part of the process and part of what you love, and it's part of probably what most people don't want to go through. What makes us, right?
Yeah. That's so true. That's kind of deep. It's
deep, it's mad, but it's, some of these things are the most memorable things in your journey, when you're literally at ground zero and you're packing boxes, you're unloading stuff from vans, take it inside your apartment or your house. These are the things that make entrepreneurs, and it's what takes people to certain places that most people won't go to, because most people would not do that. They just wouldn't have the balls to do it, or they couldn't be asked to do it, or it's just not for them.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. 'Cause it's so true, because like, yeah, like I've experienced like elements of like making it and shit in the past. Like, I had my dream car like twice, fucking had a Ferrari last year, and like most people looking at that and think like, oh, that's fucking like, that's the dream life. But I swear to God right now, and this might be the deepest thing I've ever said in the podcast so far, and I'm not just saying this, I got more of a thrill receiving the first samples for this new brand, and like 7 years into it, I get fucking chills saying this, than I did collecting that Ferrari.
Yeah, 100%.
That's the realest shit ever. And if you take anything from this podcast, like, that is it. Like, if you don't feel like that, then I don't think it's for you.
100%.
Like pursuing building brands or whatever, and like, and I still think cars are sick, and I want to have another sick car or whatever, and they're not taking anything away from that.
It's a byproduct of everything else, right?
It's not it. Like, and you have to, I think you have to go through experiencing that, and like, oh fuck, like this materialistic desire of mine that I had since I was 16. Yeah, it's sick for like a minute, and it still is sick, but it's not like that the fulfilling thing.
100%. It's the same with me when like I literally had a screenshot on my phone from 2016 of like a Range Rover that I really wanted, like never afford. When I finally got one, didn't really fucking do anything for me. For like, when it turned up, I was like, yeah,
after the first week, it's just
after that, I'm like, why did I not get the next car? Like,
yeah.
I think when people realise that materialistic things do not actually fulfill you, is like when you have to, you have to understand that and move forward with it and realise that the thing that fulfills you is the journey and like what you're actually doing day to day and how that impacts you as a person. So like picking up the samples, even coming up with the brand itself, that's the enjoyable bit, right?
Yeah. And I think as well, and fuck me, like I probably haven't spoken enough about your actual business, and people will be like, oh, I want to start a clothing brand, how do I do that? But I think this shit is as important,
of course,
and more interesting in a way.
Yeah.
But just on that point, like, I think a lot of people, and maybe I'm wrong because I'm just cynical in ways, but like I think a lot of people have looked at, you probably feel the same, like my journey over the past few years, like the highlight reel on Instagram, whatever, and think, oh, like he's got that sick car, or living in a cool place. But they're forgetting there's like a huge list of tangible skills required to even start a fucking econ brand, let alone a successful one.
Of course.
Like even just like with this fucking little brand I'm starting now, like I did all the website myself. I knew about product sourcing, so you build that skill set.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is. Like I think it's like similar when people look at, like, for example, someone like Jack Grealish or whatever, like young lad on 300 grand a week, but you're forgetting you couldn't do what he does.
100%.
Because you might look easy from sitting on the sofa, and I take the piss when I'm watching football. I'll say, fucking, I'll put that in.
Yeah, cool.
Like, I'll put that in. Like, should have won the Euros. Yeah. But like, if I got on that pitch, I'd look like an absolute retard.
Well, I think that's why so many people want to try and start clothing brands, because they see it on social media, they think, oh, I can do that as well, and they realise it's actually a lot harder than they think. And it's all the stuff that goes around it. Like, even me personally, like, you're talking about like sharing revenue figures, I'll share that, but I won't share all the shit we do during the week of like samples turning up wrong, like things getting delayed, like fucking losing money, like all this stuff that people just do not see. And it's probably partly people, like, it's our fault for not sharing that kind of stuff, but you just generally don't show those lows. But people just do not understand what it takes to really like do well in this industry. It's a hard slog, and it's like some of the stuff we've been through is like so difficult. I think a lot of people to crumble. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely think there's a problem not a problem, but just like the reality is in like social media, obviously, like no one shares fucking, and myself included, until very recently when I just felt like an urge to fucking talk about all that shit. But like people just don't. It's like weird how. Well, it's refreshing how refreshing it is to people when they see you talk about like the hard shit.
Of course. Do you know what? I've been like in town or been in the gym, and people said to me before, like, "Oh, what do you do? Do you just like chill at home all day with a brand?" It's like, are they on another planet? Like, they don't understand that actually the hours we put in is like 10 times what maybe a normal employee puts in. Like, we're there working all evening. We're there working all day. People are taking lunches. We're still working through lunch. Like, it's just a different lifestyle. Like, most people just are not equipped or not able to do the hours and solve the problems we do. So even a little thing like I see is like, when you're saying you made your own website, the normal person would honestly not know how to do that. Like, it wouldn't even compute in their brain that they need to, like, if they don't know it, go onto Google and search how to make a website. This.
Yeah, that's literally how you start.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people where I almost feel like the younger people of today just don't get it. It's weird as it sounds, like they just don't use their common sense. They're not like curious to find out how to do things. Like, I feel like for me personally as an entrepreneur, being curious and finding out how to do things is probably my biggest trait, right?
Yeah.
But most people just don't have that in them to do it, which for me is very strange.
Yeah, like I'm trying to think of an example. It's quite poignant. Is that the word? Big word.
Yeah.
Because I've literally been in the fucking but I'm back to square one building this next brand, but obviously with loads of experience. So I feel like
compounding,
like playing again. Yeah. But yeah, I'm trying. Like I'm doing a product in an industry that I knew nothing about. So like I'm literally like I got on a call with a supplier and just said, I know a shitload about how to build brands, and I know what I'm doing, like when it comes to when we launch it, but literally, like, quote, I know fucking nothing about this product, so please tell me, like, I don't know this, I don't know this, I don't know this, like, how does this work?
Yeah.
Like, people don't, it's so true.
People just wouldn't ask the question. It's like,
or they just assume that they should know, and if they don't know, it's not for them.
Yeah, and it's just, for me, it baffles me.
Rather than, like, get to know.
Yeah, and I see so many people do that through life. It's like they're in a job and they're just not curious. They just do not find out the answer, or they wait for someone to say, do this next. It's like they're a robot. They're waiting for people just to give them an instruction. Whereas that's not the right way to be. You need to be the kind of person who's actively trying to find the answer. And that's the type of person who not only does well in business, but progresses in their careers. Those type of people are the ones who, if they are choosing a corporate career, are the ones who become the people on six figures or more than that, because they're the ones who show their bosses that they've got a bit about them.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere, I think it was Andy Frisella, and he said there's like, this is again pretty like tongue-in-cheek, but there's like three types of people. There's like people that can barely even follow a list of tasks, and they're like low-skilled workers or whatever. Then there's like people that can, when they're told what to do, they can do it really well. And then there's people who can decide what they need to do and then execute upon it.
Absolutely.
Because like I reckon if you put me in a room with a laptop in 6 months, you gave me like £1,000, I could start a brand. Well, maybe not a million, maybe.
Get to mil rev.
Maybe I scaled it too quick. But
don't do that.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that
100%.
is like the realest thing. Like, you can lose money and stuff, but you can't lose like experience and like the way you think about things.
Definitely. And people say that to me, is like, if you like weren't doing what you're doing today, what would you do tomorrow? It'd be like, start a new brand. And like, you're the living proof of that. You've been through that. You've done that.
Yeah.
You've set up some amazing brands. I said to you off camera, some of the brands that you've started, like, you've got an eye for branding and product, and your next one is going to be bigger and better because you've learned all these skills, and you've just got an eye for product, like what you can see off screen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the next one will be better, definitely.
Yeah, fucking facts.
Facts, bro.
Like, can I just say, I'll butt in here,
Probably won't be able to hear you.
but what about, can I not be able to hear me? But basically, the other day he's messaging me saying, oh, we've got to go to your seminar and learn about properties, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, he's the one with like earning millions and whatever in his brand. And he's still coming to me saying, I want to like learn extra stuff about properties, blah, blah, blah. Trying to drag me to a seminar with him to go learn about properties and how to get into it. I thought, you're still trying to learn all this stuff on top of what you're doing. I just thought, it says a lot about like people like you two. I don't know.
Yeah. I hope we could hear that.
It's a pursuit of knowledge, isn't it? Like, for me, like, I want to always pursue new knowledge, and how is that going to impact myself, and what opportunities could that arise? Do you know what I mean? So that's why I want to know other stuff. Like, obviously, my number one thing is fashion and e-com, but I still want to acquire knowledge about other parts of business that could maybe impact me in the future. Especially hopefully once I get acquired, with that money, you want to go down different avenues potentially, and you need to know that you need to have the knowledge to get to a place where you can capitalize on it.
Yeah. Yes, so deep. You can speak about that all day. Yeah. The problem is with this podcast, I fucking booked dinner too early, and we're gonna have to go in like 15 minutes. But we should definitely do.
We do part two, right?
We'll do a part two of this because, I think this is the most. We've gone into some interesting avenues here. Maybe it's the fucking red wine and vodka, I don't know, but I think it's also just very like-minded. It's fucking true. Yeah. But just bringing it back to Mauve then. It's Mauve, not Mauve, right?
Mauve, got it.
Because I think that's what people want to know watching this shit. They might think we're just waffling. Mauve. Like, what's the biggest challenge right now? As it you're 3 years in, you're in probably in many ways like no man's land. Like, people think you're doing really well, you are doing well by the sounds of it, but like you obviously have challenges as a single founder, that maybe not a lot of other people know about, or
I think there's a few things. I think that one of the things is supply chain, especially with what we're going through in terms of like COVID and China. There's like electricity shortages and stuff like that. They're putting onto factories. So we're having a massive issue with supply chain, but not just because of external factors. It's just that because our units are growing so fast.
Yeah.
Whereas potentially in the past, maybe 2 factories could have serviced all of our production, we're now getting to a point where our factories cannot service us, and we're getting delayed. So that's hurting our revenue massively because our products are getting delayed. We can't bring them out when we said we're going to bring them out. So obviously I've got an amazing merchandiser, Rosie, who's forecasting all our stock figures and how much we need to bring in. When you're forecasting a certain revenue for having a certain product in stock and then it's no longer going to be there because it's delayed, when you're kind of playing at this kind of numbers, it massively affects the business. So number one, that's a massive thing. So the big thing we're looking at now is just to massively increase our supply network and find new factories around the world. So if any issues occur, we've got other places to go. The second thing is growing the team and growing the team effectively. So bringing the right people in. So obviously you can employ people, but if they're not the right fit for your business, they're going to be a massive disadvantage to you, and it could be actually a negative move. So it's taking the right time to find the right people to come and join us, especially with our location being outside of London or Manchester for fashion.
Yeah, very true.
There's certain jobs or positions that we're struggling to fill because we just can't find the right people that fit our business. Thirdly, it's just Facebook fucking iOS 15.
Yeah. Is it 15 or 14?
Or 14, wherever it is.
I don't even know. 25.
It's an issue. We're, reporting's all over the gaff, so, we are struggling with that. So we're just having to change our strategy and stuff like that. But the good thing is we're growing massively. We're going in the right direction. I'd say the other thing is also where we're growing internationally is deciding who's our customer in each country, what products do they buy, how can we localize the website, how can we speak to each customer. So if we've got certain percentages of revenue from certain countries, how does that change from each country? And if we want to grow different countries, how do we speak to them to ensure we can grow?
Yeah. Interesting. Probably dive into that as well. Right, another quick fire question then, relatively. Who do you consider your biggest competitor and most on the radar? I want you to say it. I don't know who it is.
I would definitely say it's MDV.
I knew you'd say that.
Definitely. I think I would say, if anyone from MDV listening, at this point of year 3 of our business, we are way ahead of where they were at year 3. We've not even launched women's yet, so you've got to remember that women's for them.
You plan on doing that?
We're launching women's in December, so watch out for that. I personally think that women's wear is going to be double our revenue, double what we're doing for menswear. So I generally believe that we're on a massive upward curve, and just looking at what other brands have done at our stage of the company, we're very ahead of what other people are doing. So we've as long as I don't massively fuck up, we're on a good upward curve still.
Yeah, interesting. But maybe MDV will have to buy you.
Fuck no. I get Reese in my DMs chatting shit sometimes. So
chatting shit.
Sometimes, yeah.
As in hating. Or?
Yeah, a few times. Do you know what I think? The issue. I have respect for him. He's done very well, but I think both our brands are looking at very similar references when we're designing, when we're looking for the next thing to come out with. So there's certain times where we do come out with products that might look similar.
I have to say,
and it's not on purpose.
Yeah, I think the whole brand saying that other, particularly clothing, because it's probably most competitive, brands saying that other brands are copying them because they're doing something similar is just ludicrous.
Absolutely.
There's obviously going to be overlaps and very close to identical at times.
The big thing that brands got to realise is you're complaining about people copying you, but you're copying the high street. Sorry, you're copying the high street and also the runways.
Yeah.
So you're copying Gucci, you're copying fucking Givenchy. So you're taking your inspiration from Givenchy, making a design, and then you're moaning at someone for doing the same because it looks similar to yours. Well, you're looking at the same reference, so of course it's going to look similar to yours because everyone's looking at the same thing.
And it's also an item of clothing, so
exactly. And in a few months, no one's going to give a fuck about it.
It's going to have 2 arms if it's a t-shirt.
Exactly. Do you know what? There's enough there's enough to go around for everyone to have a good dinner. Enough of the pie. Do you know what I mean? There's so many people out there. People need to stop worrying about other people and just focus on themselves, because the world is so big. The market is not going to get impacted by someone who's got a brand that's doing 20 million in revenue. There's so much money out there. I don't think people realise is like, if me and you went toe to toe with a brand,
so
it's really not going to impact us. If we
I realised that when you go on a plane at like night time, or obviously just a plane in general, but like you're flying over a fucking like world for like, I don't know, 11 hours if you're going to like Bali or some shit. You're going 600 miles an hour for 11 hours and there's people everywhere below you.
Exactly.
There's a lot of people.
There's a lot of people out there.
Seeing shit, but you get the point.
There's so many people out there. It really does not matter. Like everyone's got. If anyone's got the kind of idea to start a brand, there's enough to go around for everyone to do well.
Yeah, I 100% think that as well. Like I just think, there's basically no such thing as a saturated market, because
there's not.
There's an angle on everything. And
everything.
All right, final question, because we're time pressed on this one, and we'll do an episode 2.
Definitely.
Fine, it's still a banger episode, I think. But this is like a cheesy question, but I just thought of it, like, because I think a lot of people watching will relate. So if you could give one bit of advice to your 17-year-old self then, watching or listening, because you were 17, like you said, when you started, what would it be?
Not be so naive. I think when anyone's starting out a business, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to try and tell you certain things, maybe dangle a few carrots, tell you could do something or make a certain amount of money if you take their help. But you got to remember, everyone in business is out there to make their own money. So just be very careful with who you work with, who you deal with, and just stay in your own lane and be just very aware of what's around you. So I think one of the biggest takes is, like, especially in the fashion industry, so there's obviously be a lot of people who are trying to start up clothing brands who want to go into the fashion industry. Once you've started a brand up, the traditional way to get into stores and make money is go into a fashion agency. And what that is you'll have someone who's got a showroom in London or Manchester. They stock all your clothes in their showroom, and the idea is that stores like ASOS, JD Sports, Top Man, when they were around, would come in, look at your clothing, and then buy your clothing based on what they've seen. But the issue is the fashion agency would take between 10 and 15%, maybe even 20% of your revenue from that deal just to have your stuff in their showroom. So on the outside, that might sound fine. It's a small percentage to take for maybe a massive reward, but the reality is they're there to fuck you over. You got to remember, they're going to make money out of you. And there's something called agency law, that if you decide at any point that you want to leave the agency, if they've made you £100,000 in sales, you owe them a whole year's worth of commission if you want to leave. So there's been certain brands that have made millions out of agencies, and then they want to leave because they realise getting fucking ripped off, and then they've got to pay a whole year's worth of commission to that agent. And the issue is that can put people out of business, and that makes small brands very very kind of exposed to that and going out of business. And these agents are top salespeople, and they're going to try and tell you what they can to try and make just a small buck out of you. So they'll try and dangle that carrot, like I said. They're going to try and tell you that you can be the next fucking whatever, biggest brand in the world, just so they can maybe make a few £1,000s out of you. So just be aware of what's around you. Try and do things yourself. Try and approach stores yourself if that's the avenue you want to go down. I'd always say try and go direct to consumer, right?
Yeah.
I think that's probably the way to scale with a small team. But just be aware of what's around you, and don't take what people say as gospel, because that's the worst thing you can do as a young kid.
Sweet. Big value. Right. Yeah, that was a fucking good one, I think. I could probably go on for like 5 hours, but I need to piss and we've got to go out. But we'll do an episode 2. And I reckon we get you on for episode 2. I felt bad you sat over there off camera.
Too, yeah.
But
I've got some things like
I've got my best mate, by the way, who supported me from the start. He's off camera, but next episode will be on.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I guess hope you enjoyed that episode. As I said before, listen to it wherever the fuck you want, whether that's Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube. This podcast will be going places, I think.
Fire.
And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Cheers for watching. Peace.
Nice one.